Good day, ladies and gentlemen, I am Briareos Kerensky and this is the review of Brave Dungeon, a spin-off of the Legend of Dark Witch series. If you recall the first game, there is a boss described as a treasure hunter. Her name is Al, that will later star in the second game as a shopkeeper. In Brave Dungeon, Al is the leader of a Dark Witch all-star treasure hunting party, along Popelne, Stoj, Rudy and Mari. A certain character can be recruited after fulfilling some requirements, and it's not really a spoiler because promo material always shown her. Story goes that Al is searching for magic items but tackles a dungeon too hard for her and wakes up in a village, tended back to health by Lugri, the local innkeeper. And that's about it. From the start, all characters are available and can be recruited for the game's 3-man party, no explanation given why they're there. In fact, the only story segments are when facing the Guardians on a dungeon's final floor and the ending sequence, which is kinda strange considering that both Dark Witch games had plenty of interactions between characters. Players can choose between 5 different dungeons to tackle in the order they wish, the only limitation being how strong enemies within are. No indication of a recommended level is given, but a defeated party will get back to town at full health with no repercussion other than respawning enemies and bosses. Playable characters all have different stats and gain different abilities as they level up. Al is an all-rounder with access to a good variety of attacks and buffs. Popelne is a strictly offensive character. Stoj is the healer of the group. Rudy focuses on speed and has a limited range of heals and buffs, usually for herself. Mari gets a large variety of buff and debuffs. At first it's easy to focus on Popelne and Stoj as secondary characters, and they'll be able to carry the party through the game with ease. Building up other characters takes a bit more effort, especially if you forgo Stoj healing abilities, but the results can be pretty rewarding. At predetermined levels, characters will be able to change class. Usually there is a choice between offense and support, though at one junction there is no choice available. Class changes can be reverted, so I've always focused on abilities better suited for someone's strong points. One thing is that Brave Dungeon can get a tad too easy even without dedicated grinding sessions. I found that after the first 2 hours character grows stronger and stronger with ease, the last boss representing one final hurdle, and rightfully so. However, such rapid progression means you get a lot of abilities to experiment with and you never get bogged down on a specific floor or boss, removing a lot of tedium usually associated with dungeon crawlers and RPGs focused on battles. Battles in Brave Dungeon are turn-based, with characters taking action based on their speed. A tiny turn sequence bar shows who's going to act next and who will be affected by the chosen action. One thing I particularly liked is that Brave Dungeon successfully rearranges elements found in the Dark Witch games, mostly the second, to its structure. All actions, except items and weight, consume action points. To unleash more powerful attacks, you either have to use lesser actions or pass the turn. This is essentially Dark Witch 2's power bar, and works great in Brave Dungeon, being the right mix of ease of use and tactical thinking without burdening the player too much. Playable characters also have their own revenge attack, which once again fills up when getting hit. Most enemies are taken from the 2 Dark Witch games, albeit with improved sprites and new animations for their attacks. Again, some of them had their abilities cleverly adapted to Brave Dungeon's system, like masking characters' health bars instead of pitfalls. Animations for the whole cast have been expanded to cater for the new abilities in a rather hilarious way, and there are a few new enemies as well. The larger and better sprites are reserved for the dungeon guardians at the very end of a labyrinth. Defeated enemies drop raw items and, a staple of Dark Witch games, Tres. Tres is used to either power up a character or buy items that can be used in battles. One peculiarity is that these items get more expensive the more you buy them. If you are running a party without healing abilities, clever use of them is a must. Though being so precious, they are reserved for boss fights as setbacks for dying in normal battles are negligible. Raw items dropped by enemies can be fused to create other items, that in turn can be exchanged at the inn for lottery tokens. Tokens are used to randomly get stat boost for active party members. Dungeons aren't randomly generated, and all encounters are in the same position, clearly marked on the map, but enemies for all battles are randomized. All floors have multiple shortcuts to connect their beginning and end, allowing to quickly reach where you left off or get all the way back to the entrance. Enemies stay dead as you cross floors, but respawn once back to the city. Floor bosses drop a key that opens the way to the next floor, and after the final floor guardian there is a teleport back to the city. Floor design isn't particularly complex, and every dead end has some loot, promoting exploration. If anything, the various dungeons are rather boring to look at, with only one tile set for each labyrinth. Inside System proved multiple times they can create some great looking sprites with excellent animations. Now they should dedicate some more effort to backdrops. Music is once again kick-ass, though a lot of encounters aren't far apart, forcing a labyrinth BGM to start all over again multiple times, and most of them really hit their best part later. Sound effects are largely taken from previous games. They do their job, but just like backdrops, they could use a bit more work. Clearing the game opens up large amounts of extra material. There is the usual Sega shop to buy various game aids, the poker game, a sprite gallery taken from Dark Witch 2, a sketch gallery for enemies, and an infinite runner minigame. The minigame is not on par with Rudy Mikal, but I was honestly surprised at the amounts of extras crammed into Brave Dungeon. I must say that, however, I feel the game is less replayable than the originals. It might be that action games are more appealing to me, but while I would go through both Dark Witch games happily, I'd be less enthusiastic about replaying Brave Dungeon multiple times. And mind you, I've already went through the game twice with a different party each time, and in fact there is more to experiment with than the standard Dark Witch games. It's just that I don't like to go through dungeon crawlers again as much as with action games. The first playthrough took me little more than 8 hours, a number that could become both higher or lower depending on party composition and how much grinding or item collection you want to partake in. Brave Dungeon is a fun little dungeon crawler open to anyone, no matter if knowing or not the two Dark Witch games. It also sports a very elegant battle system that never bogs down players while offering enough flexibility. Level design and some graphics could use some more work to bring them in line with the rest of the game though. Nonetheless, Brave Dungeon will deliver some solid hours of entertainment. I hope you have enjoyed this review and you'll stick around for more. Briare Oskarensky, over and out!